Welcome to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show, empowering your real estate investing with techniques, opportunities, and information, minus the BS and sales pitches. Now, please welcome the host of the Investor Empowerment Series, Joe Mueller, from the Tough as Nails Investment Syndicate, Joe Mueller.
Welcome back again to the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. This is episode number 59 with Mark Faustrum. Mark and I have been acquainted for about a year or so. I helped Mark out with some of the deals that he's been currently involved in. And what I really wanted out of this podcast, the reason why I wanted Mark to be on it, was because he is the epitome of like how to get started with a full-time job, be successful in real estate investing, basically just jumping right into it. I mean, Mark, would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
All right. Thank you for taking the time out today to sit with me and be on the show, first of all.
Of course.
Yes.
It's an invaluable resource, and I couldn't have got here without you.
Thank you for saying that. You're too kind. So today we're going to get Mark's story, how he got started, what his business is all about, maybe what some of his goals are, what his current projects are. And I'll be honest, for anybody who's questioning to listen to this podcast, if you're just trying to get your feet wet or you're just trying to get started, this is going to be a great podcast for you to hear about, because Mark is that guy. He just started doing it and he's been very successful, and I'm very happy to have him on the show today. So that said, Mark, why don't we just get a little bit of background about who you are so the listener can get a better understanding of what's going on in your world. Well, what do you do for a living?
So,
I mean, you've got a full-time job,
yeah,
right?
I do. I have a full-time job. I do police and fire dispatching.
Right.
It's more than 40 hours, normally 50 plus.
Okay.
At least we have mandatory overtime every week. And
mandatory overtime?
Yeah.
Like they force you to work overtime?
They force you, yes.
Really?
You get a call last minute and you're coming in early, or you think you're going home and you don't get to go home.
I see.
So, mandatory overtime because you have to have so many people on duty at all times. So, definitely work full-time plus on my regular job. I've been doing that for about 25, 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't know you've been doing it that long.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are you nearing retirement in that aspect of your life, or is that something that you're going to keep doing?
You know, I'm at this point kind of looking at I was at a 10-year plan.
Okay.
Right now. I just turned 50 this year, and I was thinking a 10-year plan, but my real estate stuff is kind of taken off, and that may be actually retracting it back, and it may go down a little.
Dude, I'm getting so excited by you saying that. I love it. I love it. You're going to retire sooner than you planned on it.
I mean, I almost in my mind thinking 5, and I got people at work saying you'll be gone in 3.
Love it.
So
love it. So do you get like a pension from that position?
We do get a pension through the state's IMRF, which any state employee, if you're not in police and fire or school board, have their own. But
cool. Well, that's great. So not only will you get a pension, which I think you can probably collect at 50, right?
Yes.
So you could actually get one now if you wanted to, but just not the full benefit.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've never actually looked at what the numbers come out to be because I've never even considered retiring yet. But I do know that if you have 20 years by age 50, you can get something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So you've got more than that, from what I'm hearing. So
I do.
I think typically it's 50% after 20 years, and then every additional year is another 2.5%, and they cap it at 75% of your full benefit.
That sounds.
But it's probably different for each organization. I'm just knowing my basic knowledge of how pensions work.
I think once you hit 30 years, it pretty much caps out.
It caps out,
yeah.
Right? So you're very close to that anyway.
Something like that, 27, 26. I'd have to look at the numbers because I've worked at a couple different places. But
well, so first of all, congratulations on a very successful career. I mean, that's awesome.
Thanks.
I mean, I think that's great. You're kind of nearing the end, and you're starting up something new, and you're even considering, building that exponentially before you're even supposed to retire. That's great. So let's talk about what got you into wanting to even be involved in real estate investing.
I became an excellent landlord. And not in the same way people traditionally would. A lot of times people have a house they can't sell, or they get married and they got 2 places.
Exactly, right.
They have a townhouse or a house and they decide we'll just rent it out. That didn't really happen to me. I had been doing side jobs, bathroom remodels, tile work and stuff like that.
Okay.
In my off hours, again, working full-time plus.
Sure. So you're doing like tile work, contractor type work, side job stuff. That's because you've got some background in that as well.
Right.
Okay.
So I was doing that, and there was that girl. I worked with her mom, and I had done some work at her house several times, and she was getting engaged and they would decide to live together.
Okay.
And the guy. And so she had me over doing some work, minor repairs, putting up some ceiling fans, fixing some drywall, and told me she was selling the house. And it was a 2-unit. So it was a 2-bedroom house in the front with a basement, and then in the back was a licensed studio apartment.
Okay.
So I knew in my mind what the studio rented for, and I knew she was living there for less than $200 a month.
Right.
And the quick math in my head went, there's about $1,000 a month income sitting here between both properties. So I asked her what she wanted. She told me, we bought it off market.
Nice.
And then I rented that out for about 4 months. And then as I'm looking at that bank account grow for that particular account, I went, maybe real estate investing is something I should look into.
Right. Okay.
So then
cool.
January of this year.
2017, right? January 2017. So when did that transaction happen? Let's start there real quick.
A year ago this month.
So August of 2016 is when you bought your first rental property, which was this 2-flat off market where you knew the mom and the daughter and all that.
Correct.
Okay, cool. So you're getting some income for a couple months. I get it now. Then January comes along. What happens?
And then I started looking online, different stuff, and started really came across Bigger Pockets, the
Awesome.
website.
Yep.
Very popular, a lot of wealth of information and knowledge.
Right. We talk a lot about Bigger Pockets on the podcast.
I don't post a lot on there, but I do read a lot. Pretty
Sure.
much every day at work, I'll read something.
Right. During your breaks.
Yes, during my breaks.
Right. Okay.
Never put a 911 call on hold to read an article.
That's probably a good thing.
So, I do a lot of reading on there, and I actually just came across a wholesale deal that was in South Elgin.
Okay.
That I saw posted on there.
And South Elgin is one of the suburbs of Chicago, for those who aren't familiar.
So it was fairly close to me. Next town over, I went and looked at it, and there were some major issues. A car went through the foundation, and
right. Yeah, I remember this property because I remember it being marketed by the wholesaler that had it, and it was getting marketed out quite a bit, and there was like a big hole in the cinder block foundation because it was like a walkout basement or something, right? And a car went off the road.
Yeah.
Clipped the side of the building and took out a corner-ish, kind of, right?
It went through the south wall and through the west wall.
So it went through 2 walls, okay.
Yeah, so there was a big, almost 30, well, it was 30, like 35 feet, like 15 by 20 section of concrete cinder block wall that was missing on the corner, on the south and west corner was completely gone. It had been vacant like that for 2 years.
And as a newer investor, you thought, wow, this is a great idea.
Yes, I thought, wow, nothing like jumping into the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, you did. I love it. All right, let's talk about that deal. Let's talk about that South Elgin deal. Tell me about how it worked out. What'd you buy it for? How'd the plan go? All that stuff.
I bought it for $60. My hope was a rehab budget of about $30.
Okay.
Would have been my goal. $40 would have been doable and would have put me into it for about $100,000.
Right.
As people know, things don't go as you want it to.
Sometimes.
So the building department dinged me on a few things.
Okay.
Primarily the plumbing that was in there wasn't vented.
Okay.
So we had to jackhammer the entire basement and put all new floors.
Really?
Or all new pipes, I should say. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And then all of the... So that was a walkout basement. All the floors and drains had to be changed out. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the upstairs, none of the drains were vented, so all of the walls had to be opened up.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that stinks.
So
So was it a rehab in process when you bought it? Is that why?
They had done some work. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Somewhere over the lines, I don't know. Somebody changed the plumbing stuff, but
Sure.
the main floor of the house didn't need a whole lot.
Right.
I already had an updated kitchen and bathroom.
I remember that. That's right.
But we did have to open the walls to get to it, so we had to work around not opening the kitchen backsplash and actually pull the outside wall, the exterior wall off of the house to vent it.
That's awesome.
Because I was going to side it anyway, so it was easier to do that and put new
That makes sense.
boards over it and do it.
100%.
It was expensive. It threw a big hole in my budget.
I bet.
The plumbing bill plus the collateral damage because the floors had to be changed, the walls had to be opened up, and things like that probably was about $15,000.
Right. So almost half your budget that you originally budgeted for got eaten up because of the building department's request to fix these plumbing issues. So always have a contingency plan, I think, is the moral to that story. Be prepared to pay a little bit more sometimes when you're rehabbing, because shit happens. That's the moral of that story.
And then the electrical, I thought we'd need a little bit. There was already a new pipe run for some of the stuff that they had done. Mm-hmm. The electrician said no, the wires were done right, so they ended up actually rewiring pretty much the entire house.
None of the wires were done right? None of the wiring was correct, is what you're saying?
That's what they told me. I don't know.
Okay. Well, but you made sure it was done right, and you redid all the wiring, so that's not necessarily the wrong decision.
And the building department made them change a few things and move some outlets here and stuff like that. So that was another $6,000. Wow. So between the two was 20-something thousand extra.
Wow.
I mean, at that point, my thought was I could always skip the siding. Mm-hmm. It was sided, but we made the insides look so nice. I just wanted to finish the package, so we ended up going with the siding anyway and spending the money, and it paid off in the end.
Before you go any further, when you bought the property and created your initial rehab budget of $30,000 to $40,000, what did you think that it was going to be worth when you were done, and what was your exit plan for it originally?
So my thought was buy it for $60,000, put $30,000 or $40,000 into it, be it into it for under $100,000,
right, and
get it to appraised for $150,000. Was what I was shooting for.
Okay.
At that point, I had a coworker who was interested in it, so I'd already committed it to them to rent.
Okay.
Because they were in a place, townhouse or condo, that their lease was going to be up about the time my rehab should be done, and they actually knew the house.
Okay.
And had saw the pictures, and they had seen stuff I've done for myself and side jobs, and knew
the quality that the house would be in. Okay.
Right. So they committed to it already. And
you had a tenant in place before the house was even done.
As soon as I bought the house, I had.
As soon as you bought the house, okay.
I had somebody committed.
So you're almost working under the gun to make sure that you got stuff done up to par too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what? So tell me how the story ended here. You said you're over budget, 20-some grand.
30, I think. So
30.
My budget. Well, yeah, depending.
Okay.
On the high end, between 20 and 30, depending.
Okay.
Right. So I would have liked to be in for 30,000 rehab. I spent 60.
Oh boy.
So I did have that window 30 to 40. So yes. So got done, looked great, and I had a buyer broker that I've been dealing with come out and look at it, and her guess was right on. She said it would be worth 180, and that's what it appraised. So
great. While
I spent 20 or 30 more than I originally planned, it also appraised for 30,000 more than I was hoping for.
Okay, and so that's awesome. So you got more money than you thought you would. The story ended in a positive light. Tell me how, you're throwing some big numbers out there. 60,000 acquisition, 60,000 rehab costs. Where did you get this money from? How did that work? And we don't need to dive into your personal finances too much, but let's kind of walk through, how that deal worked on funding it. Since you're a new investor, I'm sure the new investor is going to appreciate what your experiences were.
Sure. On Bigger Pockets, I had come in contact with this guy, Chris Davis.
Davis, one of my guys,
Yep. So,
I'm sure he's listening right now, that's right, I did it, woo!
Chris was awesome, and Chris goes, hey, I know this really awesome guy, and he can hook you up with a hard money lender better than what I was looking at. I had looked online on Bigger Pockets and saw a recommendation or somebody, and had contacted them and just started the preliminary, but hadn't applied. It was like before I started looking, can I do this?
Sure.
Type situation. So Chris hooked me up with this really awesome guy, Joe Mueller. Joe.
Yeah, okay. Come on now. Let's. I know I'm pretty cool. Everyone knows I'm cool, but all I do is talk about myself on this podcast. So yeah, okay. So I had a funding opportunity through one of my lending partners, and Mark was actually the first person to utilize it. I've talked about it before on the podcast of working with me through Lending Home, and that's what he's referring to. So we ended up working through that side of the deal. Yeah. There was some hiccups, I remember that, but it was kind of both of our first times doing this stuff. But let's finish the story. How did that work out? Tell me how it worked.
Lending Home, the numbers went back and forth on what they were going to fund and what they weren't, and there's a little sticker shock at first. It was my first deal, and they were taking a risk, and of course, as I got a house, it's got no foundation. And
right, so it was a big project, and it was your first rehab, and I think that's something. Take out whatever that company is that does the lending. Anytime you're going to be borrowing money from anyone, whether it be a company, a bank, or an individual, those factors are going to be things that they're going to be concerned with.
Right.
So we made it work.
I did, and back to the rehab. I felt confident when I looked at the house before I bid on it. The wholesaler was out of state, and they actually gave me the door code, and I went in and looked and took some pictures and videos, and I kind of did my diligence, and I went to some contractors that deal with foundations, and I was recommended to one, and I went there, and unfortunately they only do commercial.
Okay.
But the foreman happened to be in the office.
Okay.
And I just said, I know you don't do commercial, and it doesn't matter if it's a house or a store above it, but give me an idea. I don't know, is this a $10,000 repair or a $100,000 repair?
Right.
Just so I had an idea.
Sure.
So he gave me an idea of what it was going to be, if they were going to make me pour new footings and concrete walls and frame it, or if I could build it back as brick. So then I went back to the building department and said, hey, I'm looking at this house. Can I re-brick it like the cinder block, or do you need me to put new footings? And basically they let me just re-brick it, almost like Legos. Just
put it back together.
Up. Yeah, so that made the deal doable, and then in my mind I'm like, well, I can do that. Not I, but we can.
Right, you could manage that project and get it done. So did you end up using the? So when you deal with lending home, they give you a certain amount of money for the acquisition. You're paying 12 whatever percent, right? I don't remember what your end result was, but did you use any of that rehab money that they also provided, or no? I can't remember.
Not as I went along, but after I was done.
So when you were done, you took advantage of the fact that you can do a draw, and so you paid yourself back for everything you had invested in the property.
Because at that point, I had put $60,000 out myself.
Okay, so you had a little nest egg already going to make this happen. Okay, that's important for everyone to know.
Yeah, and there's other ways around it. My credit cards gave me those checks, and my buddy was a contractor. He'd take my credit card, and so if you're just going to float it for a month and not have to pay juice on it, or interest on it, you can get by that way. One of the reasons that I did it that way, and my buddy actually waited for payment until I got my draw.
Oh, that's nice.
So
the contractor.
Yes.
Okay.
So that helped.
Absolutely.
That was a big chunk of it.
That's huge.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I waited, it was kind of the normal hurry up and wait. So we got started on it right away, got it gutted, and then we had the plumbing issue, and the building department wouldn't issue permits for anything until that was done.
I see.
So we were at their mercy. They wouldn't let us do anything else.
Right.
So it was a complete stop.
Okay.
And it took me probably 5 weeks or 6 weeks before I can get the contract, plumbing bids, somebody to commit to getting it in, getting the permits, and getting the plumbing done. So that put a big stop hold on it. And then once that got done, it was like boom, 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 and we were done.
Oh, okay.
So
moved pretty quick after that.
Yeah, I mean, we probably had the house done in 4 weeks.
That's awesome.
So
good for you.
But it sat for 2 months or so,
waiting on the city
right,
and all that.
And
stuff.
then 4 or 5 weeks and we were done. So it was like,
yeah.
At that point, it was like, well, we're done, and you can't do the draw till you have so much the work done.
Right.
So
I see.
There wasn't a way to really stop and go, hey, send somebody and give me $10,000. It was really just got done so fast. At that point, it was like, all right, we're done. Just send the inspector and give me everything.
Right. Sure. Well, that makes sense. And then, so you ended up exiting out of that initial loan. I know that because you kept it as a rental. You ended up refinancing it into like a 30-year fixed loan, and you've got the tenant in there, and it's making you some money every month now.
Yeah, about just under 500.
Just under 500. Awesome. So I love that number because that's a very doable number. So now you've got 3 units, 2 rental properties. What happens next in your world? This is where I start to get foggy because that's when you were like boom, and you just shot up and ramped up everything and just kept going. So tell me more.
Trying to think what the next one was. I think the next one was actually the wholesale deal I bought from you.
Okay.
So
you got a wholesale deal.
Offered me a wholesale deal that worked out very well. That kind of threw me for a twist, good and bad. I know there was a tenant there that was underpaying, and I wasn't sure how that would go, that I was going to have to raise their rent because the numbers didn't work at what they were paying. They were underpaying by several $100s.
So what were they? So I remember the deal. It was a deal in Elgin on Crescent, and we actually talked about it on the podcast once, as well as we talked about it at some of the meetups. And we had people that were also concerned about that rental amount, but the key was, hey, you buy this property, you raise the rent, you run the risk of losing the tenant, but you need to get what the market rent is for that property. Plus, I remember meeting you over there, and that thing was a gem. I mean, it was a nice house.
It really was a nice house.
Didn't really need a lot of work, right?
They lived there for 6 years. They loved it, and they took care of it. I mean, the pictures I took that I still have when we looked at it when they were there were like, they took care of the house.
That's great. So what'd you buy that one for?
$90,000.
$90,000, and what did we think it was going to be worth?
Well, our goal was to hit 120.
Okay.
Maybe 125, but 120 is where the number worked, because then on delayed financing, I could get back everything I put into it and basically have the house for no money out of pocket at that point.
So let's dive into delay. I don't know if I've ever really mentioned, or if I have, it's intermittently on delayed financing is essentially a type of loan, right? So you went to a regular mortgage lender and you did a delayed financing loan. Tell me how that works so people can get a better understanding of that process, because even I've never even done it, so I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah, all this is kind of new to me too, so I had to learn it as I go along. Delayed financing is apparently if you pay cash for a house,
okay,
the day after you close, you can go get a mortgage on it, and it's called delayed financing.
So it's a type of loan product that's out there.
Correct.
Okay.
With delayed financing, you can get 100% of your acquisition and closing costs back.
Okay.
As long as the appraised value meets the percentage. So in an investment property, it would be 75%. You could take out, you have to leave 25% equity.
Okay.
So that's where the 120 number works. So at 120,000 appraisal,
right,
75% of that would be 90,000, and that will let me get back everything I put into it and basically get a house for free.
I love it.
So it turned out awesome deal. The appraisal came back at 136,000.
Awesome.
So basically, I in one day made $46,000 equity.
I love it. And what happened with the tenant?
So the tenant, that was kind of the side that I was kind of like.
You said the good and the bad.
Yeah, this was the bad side. So I called them. We closed on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I called them on Saturday because rent was due the following Tuesday. Make sure they didn't mail the rent check to the old landlord, because getting that back was probably going to be non-existent. And
right.
even if they're underpaying, $1,000 or $900 is $900.
Money's money.
Out the window.
Right.
So as I call them and tell them about it, they give me 30 days notice. I didn't even tell them about the rent yet. I didn't.
Right.
So
they knew it was coming.
I was kind of shocked, and as you know, Joe, you and I both went and looked at it together, and they loved the place, and I was just taken back by that. And in the meantime, I had bought another house on auction, which we'll talk about. So I'm kind of these two things all at once. I'm like, shit, I just bought this house and they're moving out. I wasn't planning on dealing with a vacancy and
turnover,
another house that I'm closing on and needs a rehab. So it actually worked out really well.
What happened with this one?
So as the appraisal was coming there, I had posted the day before online on Facebook house rental site. Just see what would happen.
So you use Facebook to try to get a new tenant.
Yeah, just to see what the interest was, and I put $300 a month more than the people were paying.
So now you're asking $1,200 a month. Is that right? Okay.
And anything 11 would have worked, but I'm like, I know the rental in that area probably could have got 12.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 13. Probably could have got 13.
Wow. That's great.
I figured at 12, if there's no vacancy.
Yeah.
Even if I went 1 month, the $100 difference is eaten up. It's a wash.
Right. Exactly.
So I put 12 out there, and had a bunch of interest, and I had one lady actually take her lunch break and meet me when the appraiser was there, so I didn't have to bother the tenant more than once. I'm like, I'm already going to be there. She showed up. She loved it. Gave me a deposit on the spot.
Really?
She and her boyfriend went online and filled out the credit and background applications, and they paid $40 a piece for themselves. I got the report the next day, and they look good. The only thing their credit was some older stuff, and she told me about it, was some older medical stuff.
Sure.
Nothing high end, but a bunch of them. And I just told her, I said, well, I like you. I thought I had a good vibe about her. I kind of used that. She's been at the same place working for 20 years. She's like in her early 50s.
Okay. And
just felt good about it. And I said, the only thing is the credit, and if you're willing to do a double security deposit, we're good.
2 month security.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, that's great. I do the same thing, so that's awesome.
Went that way, and
this is all just through marketing on Facebook. So you didn't do anything but market on Facebook.
I did. Yeah, I put it on there for one day.
Well, that's awesome.
I had like 7 or 8 hits on it, and then enough that I was like, shit, maybe I didn't put the run high enough.
Well, maybe that could be one thing. But I love that's a great tidbit for some of the listeners to take away. I personally have never used. Well, I shouldn't say that, because our stuff gets pushed out to Facebook in the general marketing, but I don't put them on like those little those specific pages you're referring to. And you got a tenant in a day, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of, sometimes you get, 30 phone calls, 30 emails, whatever. It's a pain in the ass to sift through all that stuff and figure out who you want to work with. But that's awesome.
Yeah, so that worked out. So it ended up after the delayed financing thing. I think my mortgage. I just got the papers yesterday on it, and it's like $770 or something is my payment.
$770, is that with taxes or without?
That's escrowed. Taxes,
that's everything.
Insurance, and everything. So
wow. So $770, you got it rented out at $1,200. There's another easy $400 and some dollars.
Yes.
Love it. Great deal.
And
Great
not
deal.
a penny out of pocket. And it's kind of a. And I'm going to touch base on it because you read online and it is confusing. People say you can buy houses with no money out of pocket.
Right.
And people get confused on that.
Right.
Because this is a deal that I got with no money out of pocket. But it's not. You have to start with something.
Exactly.
So there's some confusion when you say that,
right.
Where people think, oh, I don't have anything. I could just start buying houses. And it didn't work out that way. Doesn't work out that way.
Awesome point. Right. Okay. No, 100% agree. It's somewhat misleading when you see, no money down. Though that stuff does exist, what you're saying is, well, sometimes you can make it work a lot of times if you've got the money up front. Maybe you can be no money out of pocket after you finish your exit strategy for financing or however you fund it,
right.
Stuff like that. No, that's incredible. And what you mentioned was while you were in the process of dealing with this deal, closing on it, you went under contract on something else.
Yeah, I won an auction on Hubzu that I didn't think I was going to.
Okay.
But I did.
Awesome. So you were bidding on houses on Hubzu. Okay.
Yeah.
We just talked about that in my last podcast, episode number 58. I was just mentioning how I had like an hour or so while my kids were kind of playing and they had just gotten off the bus and I'm sitting in my home office and, just I would say in my spare time, which you made the joke of, when does that ever happen, right? But one of those situations came up for me too where I bid on Hubzu and I was a backup offer, mm-hmm. and they kicked out the first buyer and they came back to me at the price that I had bid and I'm like, maybe. So I drove out and looked at it. But anyway, talk about that experience or talk about this next deal.
Okay.
And we're at wait, how many we're at so far? We got the 1-2 unit you bought, we got the rehab that you ended up renting out to a coworker, and now we got this one you bought as a wholesale deal. So you got 3 going in like 6 months. No, right?
Yeah, 8 months, yeah.
8 months. And then you've got another one under contract. So this is deal number 4 we're going to talk about, which is Hubzu.
Yeah, so, and good to know that you pointed out the backup offer. I always wondered if those always work or not, because I've clicked on it before, and it's substantially lower what it pulls up than what it seems like it went for. So I never avoid it, or I never do them, but that's good to know that may actually...
It can work, yeah.
So I bought this house on Hubzu, and it was in the middle of trying to go out of town to Texas.
Okay.
You helped me out a lot on that, and the mortgage person helped me as far as trying to get the emails, like I'm on a plane and I'm trying to text or... Yeah,
I remember that.
So...
Yeah, you were traveling and you were shooting emails back and forth and documents back and forth, but it worked out on that side for sure.
So, yeah, it worked out. Won it on auction for $106. It was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was room in that and went and looked at it, and I think it's got potential. We just started on it. Just started
the rehab process.
Yeah.
When did you close on it? Just recently, right?
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks ago. Kind of slow getting started because once you get it, then you got to get your contractor guys or working on something else. And so I just had an electrician there and changed out the electrical panel.
Okay.
And got that squared away. Been talking to some roofers. We need to put a new roof on and get that started.
Right.
And my contractor that did the South Elgin house is actually going after the end of this week. He already has it. He went there and looked at it with me.
Sure.
He's already scheduled me after he's done this week
to start on that house.
Yeah.
So you bought it for $106. What's your rehab budget on this one?
I'm hoping for 30 again. Seems to be my magic number.
Okay. Right.
This one needs nowhere nearly as much work.
Okay. And then what do you think? And I know we determine this through like an actual appraisal, but what's the guesstimate on the after repair value, and what's your exit strategy on it?
I think 170, 175 is where I'm hoping it'll go. With 106, Hubzu's got some fees, so that added on.
The buyer's premium.
Yeah,
that's right.
Added on another $5,000.
Great point to bring up. So you won the bid at 106. But Hubzu charges a 5% buyer's premium on top of everything, no matter what you get to bid for. Even if it's $5,000, they charge 5% on top of it or whatever.
Right.
So you ended up paying what, 110 or something.
112, I think
112.
it was. Because they had that, and then they got a $299 technology fee or something.
Right.
They had some fees.
They hit you up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in it for 112. You've got $30,000 in rehab costs. We'll figure it's worth $175 after repaired. So you've got roughly like a $40,000. Oh no, a little less. $30,000 spread there, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm hoping. And those numbers when I started in it, it sounds like, oh, those are really great numbers. That's a lot of money. But then when you realize the actual true cost that you put into it, it comes out much smaller than you.
Sure.
That
feels different.
Thinking. Yes. There's some costs we used. Lending home again.
Yep.
There's some upfront costs.
Points. Yep. They charge stuff. Yeah, there's full disclosure on that. I mean, I've talked about it in the podcast too. I mean, it's a great avenue to get started as like an alternative funding method because they're very easy to work with. They can provide. Well, they typically are providing somewhere between like 60 to 80% of the acquisition. So you still got to have a down payment, and then they'll fund 100% of the rehab. And it all depends on the borrower. At this point, you had a couple more deals under your belt. I know they moved you to a different tier borrower, they called it, and they gave you a little bit better of a rate. But we actually chose to go with the higher rate in order to minimize the down payment, if I remember that right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, but it worked out. You got the acquisition done.
It did work out. They came through on funding. Hubzu would not give us an extension.
We closed that thing in like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, so
it
went
awesome.
Pretty quick. They funded it quickly, and it worked out. And get started on that. And hopefully, make it nice.
Good. What are you gonna do with that one? Are you gonna? I know you were kind of hemming and hawing. Are you gonna flip it or are you gonna hold it? You're not sure yet.
I am not sure. I'll be honest with you.
Okay. Well, it's good to have more than one exit strategy. I always say that. Like, if you can hold it for rent or you can flip it, then you're in a good spot.
I need to build up the war chest a little bit.
Sure.
So selling it sounds
appealing. Okay.
I haven't sold any of them yet that I've done or acquired, but I may change my mind too. So I don't know.
Cool. Well, I'm anxious to hear how that one works out. And from what we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast is while you were doing this transaction now, you closed the wholesale deal, you get a new tenant in there that you found on Facebook. You're waiting to close on this one, which we just finished discussing, and then for some reason you get in your head to make some more offers.
Well, this one goes back to early May.
Oh, so this was an offer you'd submitted earlier.
It was a short sale.
And I'd love to see. That's why I love short sales.
And I know, at least I've been told a lot of investors don't like them because you sit on them forever and you don't know.
I think that's the best thing ever. You can wait and watch the market change, good or bad, and still get to make a decision 6 months later if you want the house or not.
So this one actually has some really good potential.
Okay.
It's a short sale. It's now vacant because we did go look at it.
What is it? Single family, multi? What is it?
It's single family, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, and don't remember if it's a car and a half or 2-car garage detached.
Cool.
Need new kitchen, new bathroom, and just some freshening up. New floors and
not a lot of work.
Nothing structurally that I could see.
Okay.
It's got potential. It was listed for last October of 16, for 160.
Okay.
And every 3 weeks they would drop it.
Okay.
Like $5,000, $7,000, like
clockwork. Okay. Yes. Trying to get rid of it.
And then in April they had it for 110.
Okay.
After dropping all those months, and so I was talking to the buyer broker I deal with, and she says, "What do you think on it?" I said, "Throw him a low ball offer." So we offered him $80,000.
Love it.
Knowing that 160 is probably a retail price. If it was, probably could make it one worth 160, 170 fixed.
So ARV's 160, 170.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at 80, it takes months and months, and I don't hear anything. So I keep doing these other deals.
Yeah.
I buy the wholesale house. I buy the Carpentersville house.
Right.
And the broker comes back and says, "Yeah, the bank sent somebody out and they appraised it. They want 105."
Okay.
I said, "That's not going to happen."
I love it.
And at this point, I'm already almost up to my eyeballs anyway. So
right.
I'm like, if it
you're
works,
knee
it
deep
works.
in some other deals.
Yeah.
I mean, so what'd you do?
So I said, "You know what? Tell them I'll go 85 and that's it."
Wow.
And it looks like they're taking it.
Wow.
So she's gotten some paperwork back. We haven't signed a contract, but it looks like it's going to go for 85.
Oh, so the broker who's the short sale broker is fairly convinced that the 85 number is going to work.
Yes.
Oh, see, that's awesome. So so at that point, if that one goes through, that's deal number 1, 2, 3, 4. That's deal number 5. Is that right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that's in about a year's time.
1 year exactly. From the first one. The first one, like I said, was accidental, and I didn't even really start looking actively for anything until January of 2017. So
you've done 4.
That's at 8
You've done
months.
4 deals in 8 months.
Yes, and I don't want to tell you that I just bid on another one on Hubsuit.
You've been on another one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I had somebody ask me about it about partnering on one because they want to get into it.
Love it.
In fact, I'm supposed to meet with them tonight. No, but that one, depending on what it goes for, it's a diamond. I mean, it's a good one. There's
Where's that one at? I'm just curious.
South Elgin.
South Elgin.
Yeah.
Okay, good for you.
Don't bid against me.
I'm not. No, I'm good. I'm good, man. No, I love it. So that's great. And then you said you also have a contract accepted on a new house that you're going to move into.
Yes.
So you're buying a new personal residence
on
in the
Sunday.
process.
On Sunday, I signed a contract on a new place for me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Dude, you have done a phenomenal job in 1 year, basically just diving into real estate investing, accidentally, from what it sounds like, and turning it into an income business for you, monthly income. And you're getting almost $1,000 a month now in rent extra. And then plus you're going to have a couple more deals under your belt. What are you going to do with the one that you said you were getting in the short sale for $85? What's the exit on that?
I'll keep that as a rental.
You're going to keep it?
Because it's in the town that I liked it in.
Right.
The one I won that we just closed on last week isn't necessarily a town. It's the next town over. But
that's the one where we did the 2-week closing and you were out of town for it? Yeah.
So...
Right. Not as close in proximity to the rest of them.
The short sale I'll probably keep. In fact, I have somebody that wants it already. Another coworker who's been asking me for a 3-bedroom.
Jeez,
so,
that's awesome.
We'll see.
Yeah.
In fact, if it closes, it's really not that bad right now. I might just ask them if I just throw some lipsticks and paint and new carpet.
Sure.
I want it as is.
Because it's nice. Is it nice enough?
It's nice enough. Yes.
What are you doing for? How are you going to fund that one, or what's your plan to acquire on that? I'm just curious.
Well, that was a cash deal.
Cash deal. Okay.
Yeah, for the short sale.
Okay.
It did sound like they would accept financing, and I think as is, it would probably actually be financeable.
Sure.
So I might change that, but
so
we'll see.
You took the money you got back from your first deal. No, your second deal, which was that rehab that you ended up renting out to a coworker. You used what you had in your own account to buy the wholesale deal that I helped you with. Mm-hmm. You refinance that, which thus replenished the coffers, and now use some of that to buy. This is getting confusing. Deal number 4, because you put down a percentage of the down payment because you used Lending Home as the funding source, and now you have enough cash to be able to close on this short sale. Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And personal residence, that's going to be what, like a low down payment or something? I hope.
Right. I go with a 5% conventional. I talked to the mortgage guy, and same thing. OPM, other people's money. Why am I going to put 20% down? It does save me, I think, about $77 in mortgage insurance. That's $20,000 applied somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound very
better use of that money.
Better use.
So, and if you're confused about what funds go where, I'm even more confused. And my mortgage guys, the underwriters are looking at my accounts, and I have several accounts because what I do is every property I acquire, I open a new account.
I love that you do that.
And
it's
it
a great
runs
idea.
itself. All the mortgage payments automatic deduct. I take pictures of the rent check with my phone, deposit it.
Oh, nice.
And then I could look at any day or anything and any time and know what that property is netting and what's paid and what's not paid. And
so you automated your system to some degree using apps, devices, the banking stuff that's out there. Awesome.
And then, it gets confusing because I move money around accounts between them.
Sure.
So, they're questioning, well, where did this come from? What came from there? But where did that come?
They're tracing back and forth. Yeah.
So,
a little bit of a challenge, but sure. I'm sure you'll get around it. That's good. So, we kind of got this. So, that's like 6 real estate transactions in roughly a 12-month time, which I think is freaking phenomenal. Congratulations on what you've accomplished. I love it. You've done a phenomenal job. I think you're an inspiration and a source of motivation for a lot of people that are trying to figure out how they can get started in real estate investing. What type of advice would you give back to somebody who's considering what based on what you've experienced, what would you tell somebody who's in your shoes a year ago?
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid?
Just jump in the pool.
Jump in the pool. But with some degree of calculated risk, I hope.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have some contingencies.
Sure.
I'd have been really screwed if I didn't have whatever sources I could pull, or a friend that wait for the payment until I got the escrow, or
the contractor, right?
Yeah, even with the first one with the $60,000 to back up to that, where I spent $60,000, I budgeted $30,000, and I had $30,000 in escrow with the hard money loan.
Right.
I could have still recycled that same $30,000. I could have done $10,000 draws and just kept doing that,
right, until
the end, and just still been out of pocket the difference. So
sure,
it could have worked, but it would have been jumping through a few more hoops.
Right. Okay.
But you have to have some way to get it, whether it's a credit card or a 401k to borrow against. If you go over, you just got to make sure you have enough reserves to get going. And it's not funny, but semi-related. I've looked at in the last year of the properties I did acquire. I probably looked at 15 or 20 other ones.
Okay.
That either the numbers didn't work for me, or they got sold really quick by investors.
Sure.
But a handful of those were ones that were an investor bought and were trying to get rid of because they ran out of money.
Really?
Yeah. I think you and I talked about one in Carpentersville that
yes,
had the back bedrooms
yes.
that were started during.
I remember
so
that
that's
property.
One example.
I own a rental house 2 doors down from it, and they're still trying to figure that out. That's a completely different side story, but yeah, the seller of that property keeps raising the price. It's a direct sale, off-market deal by a wholesaler. They're raising the price to the wholesaler now every month, and the wholesaler's like, listen, man, I can only pay X, Y, Z. Like, it's just not going to work. Because every month that a payment's due, because he's got some type of weird hard money loan on it, he's paying $1,000 a month juice. Like, yeah, that's a bad situation.
So one thing that stands out to me, and I don't even know if I ever told you about it, is the buyer broker that I deal with. Kind of came in contact with through Bigger Pockets also. She looked at the first house, that South Elgin house.
Yep.
And with the missing walls, and she looked around, and and I told her I want to be at 150, and she's kind of like, yeah, probably, depending at what happens with the structure and stuff.
Sure.
And so she looked at me and she asked me, so this is her question was, so this is your first house, your first rehab?
Right.
And I said, yeah. And,
right.
And it wasn't a house that just needed, some paint and appliances.
No lipstick on a pig.
Yes.
Right. No cosmetics.
And she kind of looked at me and glanced over her shoulder because she was walking away. She's like, "Good luck." Kind of like, no way in hell is he gonna pull this off. And I still remember that. Her and I became pretty close since then. And
that's funny.
That's stuff that I brought that up the other day. I saw her.
That's awesome.
But apparently, I made a $60,000 house that had holes in it, right, walls, into a $180,000 house. So
awesome. You did a great job.
Don't be afraid, and just go in and just having a good team, finding a good team,
working with the right people.
Right.
Yeah, I know, because I'm helping you on the lending side. I know that broker you're talking about is helping you on the acquisition side a little bit. We've got you a wholesale deal as part of this, so there's definitely opportunity and I talk about that way too much on the podcast about how important it is to have a team and network with the right people and just be involved. And I know based on your work schedule, you don't get a lot of opportunities to come out to like the meetups and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Which I'd love to see you at one of our, actually next Tuesday. I don't know if you're off. Next Tuesday we have a meetup here.
I don't.
You're working.
I work in the afternoons. From 2:30
I get it.
Till 11.
Finding. I know you had a contractor buddy that was a friend of yours you're using. You have enough of the right people to get things going, and I think networking can only help grow that or improve upon it. But you're doing a great job. So what I'd like to ask you is, if any of our listeners would be interested in contacting you, would that be okay? If they have some questions about whether it be buying short sales or maybe working with Lending Home or what your experiences are, because what these podcasts do, they draw a lot of interest, and like I said, very inspirational, very motivational of what you've told us today. I mean, basically 6 deals in a year where a lot of people are sitting on stuff. I mean, hold on, step back. Did you get any education in real estate investing at all?
No.
No boot camps, no courses, no meetup groups, no $2,000 join our thing for a year and sign on some more people. We'll do it for okay.
I did some free reading online with
some free reading on Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets, pretty much.
This Bigger Pockets comes up almost every podcast. But yeah, what a great resource.
Yeah, it
awesome.
Absolutely is.
Okay, cool. So again, if somebody wants to contact you, would you be okay if we maybe give out your email?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, why don't we do that?
So it's markf2145 @gmail. So MARKF2145 @gmail.com.
So Mark, F as in Frank. So it's MARK, F as in Frank, 2145 at gmail.com. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show today. What a great episode.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all your help. Honestly.
No problem, dude. I love it. This is what I do. This is what drives me, and it's my passion. So I'm more than happy to help anybody that has questions. That's actually how this all started. I mean, Mark basically gave me a call out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I heard maybe you could help me with this." Yep. And then it started a relationship, and he's been phenomenal and successful with his desires. I think that's great, making some money in real estate. That said, that's the end of our show today, episode number 59 of the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. Stay tuned for future episodes. Please visit us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Google Plus, whatever. Rate me if you can. I appreciate it. And that's RATE. I said rate me. Yeah, that's right. Hope to hear from you guys. Get a hold of Mark if you have questions. You can get a hold of me at joe@tannisgroupllc.com. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Investor Empowerment Series radio show. Be sure to tune in next week for another empowering episode. We welcome your feedback, so please rate us on iTunes and Stitcher, and visit us at www.investorempowermentchicago.com or tannisgrouprealty.com.